Welcome back to Forbidden Knowledge News. I'm your host, Chris Matthew. Tonight I want to welcome Slightly Slanted Sleuth for Truth. His journey started as a confused, scared human, looking up and prepping for an intruding planet to kill us all. Now he understands all is well because we're here for a reason. We're here to overcome all strife in the face of temptation, materialism, as well as ego-driven struggles, by love, goodwill, and knowledge. His YouTube channel is Slightly Slanted Sleuth for Truth. Sleuth, welcome. How are you doing tonight?
Pretty good, brother. That was an excellent introduction. I appreciate that.
And well, I appreciate you writing it. That was all you, buddy. But
hey,
yeah,
you got the affluent articulation, I guess, is what you want to call it.
Yeah, sometimes I get lucky, you know.
Nice.
I'd like to start tonight's show with something else you wrote in your email that I really liked. You wrote, the epics, the mythologies, the creation stories are all telling us the same story, essentially. Noah's flood, the Exodus, even the story of Atlantis are about how we as fools become heroes and rise above the cyclical nature of manifestation. The light of the Son of Man, or Son of God, is called such because in union with God, we become the completed tree of life and create that which created us. And I thought that was very well put. And I'm looking forward to hearing more of your research and your theories. But I'd like to start with where your journey started. Where did everything start for you?
Well, obviously from my mother. No, I'm just kidding. It started with the YouTube thing started about 5 years ago when I stumbled across a John Moore video. And I was just like, wow. He talked about Nibiru and the earth changes and whatnot. And so it went from there. And then I started filming the sky, looking for a planet. And I was totally convinced that because it answered all of the questions for me. Nibiru, the word Nibiru triggered something in me that was latent, that was, in the back of my mind, in my psyche, in my Akashic, I guess you could call it. I don't know what you want to call it, but it was there. And so I was always wondering when I was younger, because I went to Bible camp and whatever, and I was always wondering what the Noah's flood, the deluge was about, and the Exodus and, these major stories of the Bible. And it answered all of them. It answered every one of those questions for me. And oddly enough, after 4 years of filming this guy and making video after video, sorry about that, I was still wondering what's up with this. Why haven't I caught any evidence of this, and why is there such a polarization between the people, as far as, is there a planet or isn't there a planet, or, Planet 9, Planet X, whatever you want to call it. So I did a little more back digging and finally really looked into it, because I was following the information with Sentient, and that whole Nibiru thing. Turns out that Nibiru is a place of the crossing or a signpost for transition. And, that led me to the esoteric side, the great work, the alchemical wedding, the stuff you were just talking about, and it explained it all. It still fit the same narrative, it filled the void of, what I didn't understand or what I was trying to figure out when I was younger, So right now it's brought me to a whole plethora of knowing that I don't like to say the word believe anymore, because in the middle of the word believe is a lie, literally, And when you believe, you shut the door for everything else. Your mind is not open to any other information when you believe something, because believe is who you are. And that's about where I'm at.
Yeah, that's very similar to what I went through. I started out looking for Nibiru as well. I was a firm believer that it was coming, that it was going to be visible in our night sky. I too went out every once in a while and would look at the sky, seeing if I would see it. But I came to realize that there's something else behind this. Maybe there is, a Planet X out there. I don't think it's an immediate danger. I think there is something more profound and esoteric to it, like you said. And also, like you said, belief. I agree that you shouldn't really pin down a belief until because you're always learning. I find the more I learn, the less I know. And I'm always thirsty for more. I always want to find out more. But when I find that if I start really believing something and I'm pinned down on that, the next day something will slap me in the face and it'll turn me in the other direction, you know? So tell us, what have you learned about the nature of reality? Are we in a holographic universe? Is this a simulation? What do you think is going on? Is this just some experiment or a training ground for us?
Well, that's a pretty profound question, and I found some pretty profound answers to that question. And from the day I had to go to work, I've asked myself, what are we here for? And I'm sure every person that has a half a brain in their head has done the same thing, because running the treadmill of work in life can be a bitch. Excuse my language. It can be it can bring you down anyway. And so I searched and I searched and I searched, and by the I don't know, the grace of God, I guess, I found a guy named Phil Langdon, and he woke me up to what it all meant, because I was finding little pieces and little nuggets here and there, and little truths that would bring me away from the whole planet thing, and figure out that the place of the crossing is within us. It's when we marry our brain, our pineal gland, and our hearts, when we make them one, in unison, is when we create that which creates us. Now, what that means is Jesus and Lucifer are the light of creation, but they're the two aspects that are depicted on the sarcophagus of the Egyptians, where they have the crook and the flail, where they're sitting there like this, and they have a flail in this hand and a crook in this hand. And the flail is the indifferent principle of the creation, which is the manifestation of the created cosmos, us, and anything that's indifferent, because God created, you can say source created, God created. And I just don't want to push anybody away, because I'm not a Bible thumper and I'm not a religious nutcase. I just found out that God is everything. That's how profound it is, people, that God is literally everything. From the ping pong table you're sitting on my laptop here, to you, to me, to the dog, to the tree, all of it is God, and it's the everything that is us. But my point is that the seed to seed of the Bible, the only begotten Son, is the light of our Creator, and that light is created when we have that aha moment of the pineal light expansion. That's why there's a pine cone in the middle of the Vatican courtyard. Did you know that? Did you know there's a pine cone?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Excuse me. I've I had a cold and I can't breathe very well. So,
no coronavirus, right? Just kidding.
Well, at least you can't get it through here, right? No, I'm just kidding.
No, along the lines of what you're saying, right now, I've come to realize beyond a shadow of a doubt, there's a massive awakening occurring. Everywhere I look, whether people realize it or not, there's awakening going on. And I believe it's connected to solar cycles. It's connected to cosmic energy. I think our DNA is being upgraded right now. And I think we're being prepared for a different type of future. And earlier you mentioned Jesus and Lucifer. Now, I'd like you to talk a little bit more about that, because it seems that out of all the researchers I speak with, there's different views between everyone. So first of all, is Jesus a representation of a creation energy, or was he an actual being?
Well, he could have been an actual being, yet the Bible would have you think that that actual being is the only one that can be with God, or that is the representation of God, when in actuality, God comes to every one of us. That's what the pyramid represents in Giza, is the central, Giza is the center of the Earth's landmass, just like, you know, and that's the same as Jesus is to our brain, because Jesus is the pineal gland. That's what it's representing. That's the answer to your question, is yeah. It's the same as the Last Supper painting. You know, Jesus is depicted in the center of his 12 apostles. Now, those 12 apostles are the same as the 12 cranial nerves in the top of our heads. We have 12 cranial nerves surrounding that pineal gland, which is the mustard seed of the Bible. You know, that tiny little grain, you know, that little gland that it creates everything. You know, it's the cross too. You know, the cross is a literal depiction of the light we see on the top of the mountain of Mount Meru, I guess you could call it, or Maat, you know, of the Egyptian story. But yeah, Jesus is a personification of that light. That's the redeeming quality of the light. Lucifer is the creation quality of the light, the demiurge. You know, you know, you're familiar with the demiurge concept?
Yes.
That's the creator of all that is matter manifestation.
Yes.
That's the same as
Material,
Lucifer.
yes.
And the Luciferian lifestyle that these people talk about and that people are saying is this or that is just some ignorant human that's got the free will choice to live in the materialism of today. You know, that's what Luciferianism is, because Lucifer is not necessarily evil, quote unquote. It's just, we all have the choice to do that. You know,
It's
God
just the
created,
option to access the material energy, and if you want to stay in that or not.
right.
Yeah, it's understood.
Right, and that's what I think Akhenaten, you know, if you're familiar with Akhenaten, he was the heretic pharaoh, and he was desecrated out of Egyptian history because he changed all of what they had in their beliefs before that, where he said that you got to worship something outside of yourself, you know, the sun, the literal sun, you know, and all the sun is a representation, just like Jesus is, of the same light. You know, and an eclipse is representation of that aha moment, that ascension moment, when we come to that light, when the light comes to us, you know, when we meet God on the top of the Mount Meru. But yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Good.
Now I want to go back as far as we can to creation story. Now, I've heard different versions of our creation story. It changes throughout time, but it's basically the same story passed down through different time periods and different religions. But what are your thoughts on the creation story when it comes to the Sumerian mythos?
Oh, like the Tiamat part and stuff like that.
Yes.
Yeah, and well, what it is that Tiamat is representation of the okay. Here's the long and short of it. The do you know? Are you familiar with the 7 Hermetic principles?
Yes.
Okay, those are the same as the 7 kingdoms, or the 7 churches, or the 7 candlesticks of the Bible, and it's pretty much the same as the now the Mesopotamian creation myths. You refresh my memory, because I've got all kinds of creation myths running through my mind.
It's basically the Anunnaki creation story.
Okay, yeah. Well, Anunnaki, believe it or not, anybody can become Anunnaki. Anunnaki, break down the word. Anu means sky father. Na means on, and ki is earth. So sky father on earth is what Anunnaki means. Now, Anunnaki, we can all become when we create the great work, when we see the light. You know, I've seen the light, or let there be light. That's the first thing of Genesis, is let there be light, right? Or whatever. And then there's light, and the light is what causes, okay, now the 7 Hermetic principles are the mentalism, correspondence, which is as above, so below, vibration, which is the light. Then we got polarity, and then we got rhythm, then cause and effect, and then gender. And that's where we are in the animal kingdom in gender, you know, regeneration. And then right back to mentalism again. And we're the pinnacle, and there's no coincidence that the word pinnacle and pineal are pretty close, you know. There's no coincidence in that. And I can't explain to you why the English language is that way, but it is. It's across the board.
Now, when it comes to actual human creation, do you think that beings possibly from another planet or another dimension visited this planet to intentionally create what we see today as humans by intermixing their DNA with primate DNA? Do you think this is how the humans you see around us were created?
There's something to that. I don't know exactly what it is. And I really haven't bothered myself with that. I haven't gone down that avenue. Yet there's an RH factor in our blood that we all know of. There's that rhesus monkey thing, you know, and that if we don't get tested, or the females don't get tested when they get pregnant, the fetus gets killed by it, whatever. We all know that. So there's something to some of that. And Sedona on Mars proves that Mars was inhabited. You know, that and Sedona is a smaller part of the bigger picture that everybody misses on Mars, where there's a depiction of a lion's head next to that face. And that's us looking up at the light, just like Sirius, the star Sirius is representation of us looking up at the Orion in the night sky, because that's what it is. We see the light. We're like that. We turn around, we see the light of our Creator when we fulfill all that we are. You know, I don't know how to articulate it in a way where when we live, I don't know, our lives in a loving form for all that's around us, and we strive for the knowledge and the knowing of what our life is and what our reality is, then it comes to us, you know. And but yeah, I don't know exactly what happened with the beings coming down and tampering with our DNA, but there is something to that, but I haven't really.
I saw something in the chat that reminded me something I want to talk about, reincarnation. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that we have the choice to come back, that we have the choice to do other work somewhere else? And, you know, is reincarnation what is occurring?
That's the point to the whole thing. Is reincarnation is the cyclical nature of all creation, is a cycle, you know, and we can rise above that cycle when we complete the great work, or have the alchemical wedding, or complete the divine union, because God or source or the all, as you know, that they call it in Hermeticism, you know, is the groom. All matter, you know, us that reincarnate is the bride, and the groom and the bride meet, creates what is in John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son, for he who shall believeth in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. Now that means you have to die before you die, so when you die, you don't die. Meaning you have to kick your ego to the curb, tell the devil to get in the back seat, and take over the steering wheel, you know. And yes, reincarnation is a thing until we complete the work, pretty much, and become Anunnaki, angels. And, you know, we're fallen until we become risen above the creation.
Now, you just said something that it's like you read my mind there. You mentioned angels. Now, angels are something else that's different to everyone you speak to. Some associate them as celestial beings. There are some researchers that say they're extraterrestrials. And you associate it with Anunnaki, and that we can become these angels. Can you talk a little bit more about that?
I know one for sure, and I totally trust what he tells me is truth, because it rings true. If anybody gets the goosebumps when truth is told to them, they understand what I'm talking about. Because when you were reading my bio, my whole body, just every hair on my body stood on end, and I vibrated, and that's the goosebumps. That's what I call the goosebumps. But this guy, Phil Langdon, he's an angel, a literal angel on earth. And he explained, you see this depiction on my picture behind my head here, that seed bulb of the Egyptians. That is the seed of the tree of life. That's why they wore that on their heads, is because it's a depiction of them because every pharaoh was supposed to be a completed tree of life before they became a pharaoh. And it's spoken about in the Emerald Tablets, when they say they had to go to school for 5 years to 10 before they could, go on with their education or their rulership. And it's all, every pharaoh was supposed to be an angel before he could rule. And that's why the kingdoms were lowered from heaven. That's what that meant. They had to meet God. And God is not a person you can see, because God is yourself, because we are all one. We are a fractalized energy of that whole. That's what I mean by everything is God,
No, I understand. It's all connected to source. I believe that there's different densities that we can reach all the way up to source. I'd like to also know on the other coin about demons. What are your thoughts on that? Are these just lower vibrational human spirits that have become demons, or are they just archonic, older than any human spirit? Or what are your thoughts on that?
Well, my thoughts on that are, I try not to think about that sort of thing too much, because I'm moving on up. I'm trying not to go down, but there is something to energy that is caught in the manifestation, that I think if the energy that you are is so stuck in the material world, when you pass, I think you bind yourself to that material world. And that's what fear does to people. And fear is a fetter, the greatest fetter of all, that will hold us to the plane that I remember when reincarnation was enough for me. I thought, oh, that's great. I can come back. Yeah. Life will go on forever, ever. But I think there's more, and I always thought there was more to it. And that's what the hell are we here for? And it goes back to that. So demons, I think, are they're energy forms or archetypes that, if you believe them, there's that word believe again. If you believe them, in them, you give that energy to them, and I'm not saying that they're just because you don't believe it doesn't exist. But I'm saying that if you don't give it energy in your own mind, in your own world, it can't touch you, And I think it's a vibrational thing. Like you said, it's a lower density thing where if you're going to be scared and fearful of things, then it can touch you. If that makes sense.
Yes, it does. I want to go back to Nibiru. You had briefly talked about that in the beginning as a planet of the crossing, and it represented the pineal gland. I'd like you to talk a little bit more about that. If this is kind of something new, I don't think I've heard this exact theory before. So tell us a little bit more about it.
Okay, the story of Nibiru and ascension in general is that we, the solar boat analogy of is depicted in Egyptian hieroglyphs. They show, they even found a solar boat next to the Great Pyramid, or a boat next to the Great Pyramid buried physically. And the Nibiru concept is, the literal meaning of it is not a planet of the crossing, it's a place of the crossing, or a signpost for transition, and usually to do with rivers or boats or ferry crossing. Now that means that the waters of Noon, the primordial sea, that before its polarity, before it's split in two, the whole Tiamat thing, before it's split in two and polarity is created, It's the cosmic background that we know as the microwave background, or the abyss, you could call it. It's the unmanifest potential energy that is. So that's the waters. That's why everything is in maritime law, or that's why when you talk about spaceships, and stuff like that, everything's like a naval officer would call everything. We're birthed and all that other stuff. Or we're so the Nibiru is where heaven and earth collide or cross within us. That's where the cross and the circle combine. I wish I could breathe, man. It sucks. But yeah, and plus I'm a little excited because I'm finally getting to tell somebody about this without, my people rolling their eyes back in their head, and, because it's pretty deep. It's pretty deep stuff, and it's hard to swallow. And, it's so profound that if you're, this is what is said when to cast pearl before swine, or the lips of wisdom are closed lest to the ears of understanding, and them axioms that are in all of these, the veil, the what's hidden behind the veil is the veil is there because it's, it's for the physical cars, stars, and bars mentality of people that are stuck in material world. They won't see what Nibiru really means until they go down the path, and that's the path. Everybody's path is personal and narrow, because your path to God is different from my path to God. I can tell you my experience, but it's not going to ring any special bells for you because it's not in your experience. In my experience, I've seen the number 333 my whole life, and it's been pretty profound. And when I met Phil, I asked him, that was the first question I asked him, what does that number mean? And he said, duh, that means God thrice great. And I'm like, what? And I kind of blew him off. And then I was like, oh, wow. And I looked into it. Hermes thrice great. Hermes Trismegistus, Thoth, all the same thing. Our consciousness, which is reign supreme, which is everything, and there's no coincidence that the cosmic brain is, that the cosmos looks like a brain. Like they've shown those pictures on space.com and whatnot. But yeah, Nibiru is within us. Heaven and earth collide within us.
Now, that being said, do you think that there is a Planet 9 or Planet X out there that possibly comes in and causes changes in our solar system? With all the research you've done on this, I still happen to believe that there's something out there, but I don't think it is what the theorists say it is.
If you've noticed that recently our world is going to hell in a handbasket awful fast. Our ecology, our psychology, our behavior, people are more separated. We're depending on more technical things. So I think that's where the earth changes are coming from. I don't think there's an immediate danger, like you said. I don't think there's immediate danger from some said planet that's out there. But every day we're finding something new in the cosmos, in our local neighborhood even. I seen something today on What the Math, Antov. I don't know if you're familiar with his channel, but he said that he did a video about we found 127 more Pluto-type objects in our solar system. It's like, how could that be hidden from us? So every day we're finding some other new thing. But I think the whole Sitchin thing was so he could sell books, and then people picked up on that information. What I'm wondering, the most conspiratorial thing right now I'm wondering about is that Kuntz novel about the Wuhan thing, and you know what I'm referring to.
Interesting.
It's very interesting. But I mean, there is another thing that we run wild with in our minds, and we start connecting things that aren't really connectable, and they, somehow get connected. But they are doing something in the sky for some reason. We all know this.
They're definitely spraying, and there's a bunch of unnecessary fear right now, and I think that it's intentional to cause a negative change, But with us awakening, I think we have a chance to fight against it. I just keep having this feeling that we will overcome whatever we're going through right now, and it's going to be better on the other end. I have theorists saying it both ways, that it's for a dystopian society, total martial law, and then I have some that are saying it's Q coming to arrest the cabal, and I'm right in the middle. I need to gather more evidence before I know what's really going on, but it's definitely unprecedented times. I think that the awakening happened at the perfect time for all this to be happening. What's your overall thoughts on the madness going on right now?
Oddly enough, about the sky, the chemtrails and whatnot, it was right when I put the brakes on the whole looking outside of myself for the answers and started looking within me. It was when I sun gazed. I sun gazed on, of all dates, December 15th. And I later realized that that was our gateway to Orion, them days from between then and the winter solstice. And the winter solstice is, everybody knows that it's where the sun dies for 3 days and then rises again. It's the whole, esoteric Jesus story personification in a nutshell. And, that's the physical side of it. But I was sun gazing, and the very next day, Black Hole Sun, I found, I for some reason, I had to find the lyrics. And I came across a guy named Danny Wilton, and he showed that the Orion Nebula has a black hole in the middle of it, which is a trapezium open star cluster. And if you break down that word, trap-easy-I-am, it's like, okay, we're easily trapped in reality if we want to be. Now, everything is a spiral, and this is, I'm going back and forth because I sort of have this 1,000 thoughts in my head, but everything is for a reason, because everything is one thing in the end. I am you, you are me. Together we are we. There is no you and me. There is no them and they, but there is in the duality of today. The duality of today dictates there has to be a them and they, because if there wasn't, there would not be procreation. There would not be 7-point-something billion people on this planet. And there are forces that are stuck in the money, the power, the people that have their names on the islands out off of Antarctica are the ones that are manipulating the whole system. And I, for some reason, that's always been in the back of my head, that this world is ruled by them types, but this world is also the domain of us all and the all won't allow it to, to denigrate or be thrown away. And I think that's why our environment right now is degrading. And maybe that's why the sort of flu thing comes out. Maybe this flu thing, think about this. China was their economy was gonna tank, and where did it start? So that's where I'm kind of like stuck on this. It's all to try to reset the value of the money to us, to show us, and I don't know where it all fits in, but I know we are here to recreate the light, to find it, for it to keep regenerating the seed to seed, because that's what it's all about. Is we are here to rise above that nonsensical, indifferent, Luciferian material world that we're all born into, that we all in our senses know exists, because that's all we know is what we see, taste, smell, touch, hear, whatever. But what's really important is what's behind that, what's beyond that. Excuse me. And air exists because you breathe it, but you can't see it. Love exists. You can't see that. Why can't God exist? You can't see him, but something created it. So that's where I am in the esoteric and the physical world. The physical world is always going to be here, because without it, what do we got? I like to say, people ask me, how you doing? I'm still breathing and farting. I guess I can't complain, So, in a physical sense, that's all we got.
Well, yeah. Now, speaking of that, as a planet, as a physical planet, we know that every few thousand years, however many, 10, 20, 100,000 years, there's cyclical cataclysms that have wiped out much of the life on this planet. And I've heard different theories on this as well. I've heard one that we're headed towards that. We'll see it in our lifetime. And I've heard others that we have the power to create a different timeline, that it's not necessarily 100% that this would occur. I'd like to get your thoughts on that. Do you think that we have the power to manifest a timeline that could avoid another cyclical cataclysm?
You familiar with the Mandela Effect?
Yeah, definitely.
Where are we located in the Milky Way galaxy? Do you remember?
Where are we located?
Our solar system.
You're gonna have to remind me there.
Okay, back in the 80s, and it's weird. This is another weird thing about how all of this information we always refer to started in the early 80s. You know, and I don't know why that is, but in the early 80s, I learned that we were on the outskirts of the Milky Way galaxy on the Sagittarius arm. Sound familiar?
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
We're not. We're 26,000 light years towards the center. Now, how does a drain work? A drain works, it spins and it goes to a single point, right? That's what I mean about how everything is a spin. If you look at my icon on YouTube, the Anu, that's what everything is and everything is made of. Now that means that is the setup of our world. But yeah, I think there's a cyclical nature to everything, including us. You know, that's what reincarnation is for us in a physical body. And there's no coincidence that 72 years is 1 degree on the great year. You know, the great year, that which is 25,952 or something like that. And that great year is broken up, you know, into quarters and then halves, and that cyclical thing is about every 13,000 years. You know, if you go read Randall Carson's stuff and pay attention to his stuff, you see that, you know, what was it, the Younger Dryas? No, not the Younger Dryas. Yeah, was it? With 13,000 years ago when the glaciers melted?
Correct.
But yeah, that there's certain things that happen every so often, and it's a cyclical thing. But on the manifestation or the New Earth concept, like Dolores Cannon used to get into, and that's what I was getting at with the Mandela Effect is I do think that reality is what we make it, and right now we're cooking a bad batch. You know, humanity is cooking a bad batch because we're so stuck in this technological, far away from nature age that, you know, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. And there's probably people on this planet that know that are in the know, that have the money to go the other way, but they won't because they're stuck, you know, and they don't want to give it up. And those are the ones that are at the helm, and that's what the TV is for America, or the world for that matter, is the steering wheel, and they're steering us and humanity with that.
I'm just hoping that we can reach a point to where everyone wakes up enough to actually stand up. I mean, you know, right now we're doing a lot of talk about it. It's great to share information. It's great to be doing this, opening people's minds to it. But there's going to come a point where we have to actually stand up and possibly fight. You know, to actually have our sovereignty back. And I'm hoping that we can reach that point as humans to where we, you know, have that kick in the ass enough to do that, you know?
Yeah, I think if that does happen, it's going to have to be in a non-violent way, because I think the violence of our world is what's killing our world in essence. You know, the you know, if you don't agree with me, I'm going to shoot you in the head sort of mentality is just sickening, and people are, you know, they think, like recently this is what's really been draining me right now recently is everything's been censored as of late, you know, everything, even YouTube, and they've made changes to where we can't communicate in the back door of YouTube anymore. We don't have that chat on YouTube anymore. We don't have that connection with each other anymore. And now we're on lockdown, you know? I mean, pretty soon they're going to declare martial law because people are like, I'm just going to go do what I want anyway. I told my family I'm just going to become a ninja. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, I think we're going to do it, man. And the 100th monkey effect is a big deal. You know, if you know what that is, you know, where the monkeys from one island did one thing and they all learned it and they weren't in contact with each other. So I think that'll take effect. And I have faith in humanity still, and I won't lose that.
Yeah, I'm hoping that we can use this form of communication as long as possible before they, you know, either don't allow this these type of topics on YouTube or shut down all types of social media altogether. Who knows what's coming? But you know, I'm grateful that right now we can do this because you know, I'm using this opportunity to get as many people on, as much information out as possible.
You're doing a hell of a job too, brother.
Oh, thank you so much.
Great job,
now, earlier we were talking about how our DNA is being upgraded. We're evolving. Ancient humans, I believe, had extraordinary abilities. I believe that the pyramids were possibly built using consciousness. I believe that power of consciousness could have done so much more than we could ever imagine. Do you think that with this evolving that we can unlock these powers again? And I was talking to Wayne Steiger last night, and we were talking about how we could use this time to kind of meditate and get in touch with ourselves, get in touch with these powers. How far do you think we can take it?
I think we can go all the way. We can reach our goal, and that's there has been a you know, there's no coincidence that all around America in the ancient days they have mounds everywhere, you know, and the mound is the same as the pyramid, you know, and that proves in and of itself that there was a collective consciousness that was growing and thriving back in the day, and they were connected. They were connected to nature, and that nature is part of the consciousness too, because and also man must exist on that which what man only exists on that which resists. So the earth must resist man, else he existeth not. That means that there's going to be a push to every pole, and there's going to be a give and take on everything. Yet we have to, you know, stop and check ourselves before we wreck ourselves, as far as, you know, loving everybody, man. That's what it's all about. Because if you want to replace the word God with anything, we should replace it with love, because that's what we need to do, is just love everybody, no matter what their skin color is, no matter how stupid they are, how smart they are, how big they are, how tall they are, how fat they are, how skinny they are, no matter what they are, because in the end, we have to know that you are me and I am you. And that which is within you is also within me. We are all the same thing. We come from the same tree. We are the fruit, you know? And
Amen, brother.
right. So, I mean, yeah, I agree. I agree with Wayne. I agree with a lot of things Wayne says, except for the throwing the Bible away thing, because the Bible is convoluted. It's not for us to understand in the carnal mind, because it's in the language that's spoken to us in terms of allegory, and everybody takes it literally. You know, the Bible is 100% truth, but not for us to hear, because we can't. Literally, we can't until we meet God. You know, we can't till we find our true selves. And, you know, our true self is us in a higher state. And that is all one and one time existent. And that's why they say time doesn't exist, is because we are all in the stillness of the one aha moment, the pineal light expansion. Oof, we live there. And that's what it's all about. But I appreciate you having me on here, brother.
Oh, yeah, man. Anytime. Now, for the last few minutes that we have, I want to discuss something near and dear to my heart. One of the main focuses of my research is the phenomenon, which is anything from UFOs, paranormal, interdimensional beings, cryptid creatures, anything you can't explain, anything that is possible, non-human. I believe that all around us right now is that there's a whole other universe right beyond the spectrum of our vision. Now, I'm not sure that if there's aliens, that they're coming from different planets. I don't know if they're traveling across the universe in little tin cans to come and visit us. I think it may be more like they're already here, we just can't see them, and they make themselves known when they want to. Sure, some may be come and visit from different planets, but the more I study the phenomenon, it's all too connected. The paranormal seems to be connected to UFOs, seems to be connected to aliens, Bigfoots, fairies. It all seems to be interconnected in some way, and it also seems to be connected to our consciousness. That's the main form of interaction that these beings do, whether we're sleeping, astral traveling, or in a different state of mind, psychedelics. They communicate through our consciousness, and it's very profound for people who experience it. First of all, have you ever had any paranormal or UFO experiences?
Oh yeah, I've had quite a few actually, and quite a few just a couple years ago. When I was filming the sky on daily basis, I would go out and look and film. And I was coming home from the lake one day, and for some reason I had just broke my pinky finger actually, and I was rushing home, and something pulled me to pull over and film the sun. Well, on my YouTube channel, I have a video called Sunrunner Offshoot, and it looked like this orb came off the sun, and it wasn't off the sun. I don't know what it was, but it was glowing like it was on fire for, I don't know, say 300 feet, 400 feet into the air. And then all of a sudden it turned into a vibrating diamond thing where it looked like a bird kind
Wow.
of flying, but it was just weird. And, but I mean, stuff like that. Yes.
See, those
And
kind of encounters, I lean towards that. Probably not military, probably not us. Those shimmering light ship type things. I've seen, videos of some researchers that I know personally that have caught those, and those are fantastic. Those are quite unexplainable.
yes, I've got a couple of them. And I've actually got something on my channel that looked like a half between a snail and a corkscrew flying through the air. And it was like one of those bar type things
Seen
that
those. I've seen, and yeah,
you have.
those
No
are
way.
crazy. I've never seen it personally. I've seen videos that people send me, but yes, those are crazy looking.
Yeah, it was crazy. And had heard about those bars, where they say that bars go through the videos super fast and you can't really see them, and then if you slow them down to super slow motion, you can catch them. I've seen a couple of those. And I know that there is a presence that we have here on Earth, and I don't know for how long, but after my father died 16 years ago, he wrote his name in my backyard in the dew, man, or my name. And I tried proving that to people. Look, I took
Wow.
pictures, but I know that and that was his way of saying everything's cool, everything's all right, you know, and, you know, and I know that we are all one, and this is what I'll end that subject on, is because I put my dog down and she looked at me with the same eyes that my dad looked at me, and my dad wasn't a dog and my dog wasn't my dad, so it was the same look in their eye, man. So it was just, I'll end it with that. But yeah, I believe in it,
Yeah,
or
and
I know it exists.
well, going a little further, what are your thoughts on about what I said about the connections between everything, the paranormal, these extraterrestrials, angels, everything like that? It seems to be connected, and it seems that they can access each other's realms. And once, I guess, you cross over, it's more accessible. You can connect to everything, I would imagine.
Yeah, the Egyptians called it the Duwat, or the underworld. And yes, there is another realm where the etheric realm, the New Age community would probably call it, where we're not of the body and we're not of the spirit yet. We're just in the energy. And I think that's the imprint we are, still remains the individualistic, and maybe it's aspects of the whole. I don't know. But I think everything is interconnected through consciousness, like you said. And yeah, everything is of the mind. And the angels, we all have guardian angels. And if you've ever had that voice in your head when something was going to go bad, or when you thought about somebody and the phone rang, and it was them, or stuff like that. There is no such thing as coincidence. Things happen for a reason. And I'm not saying that everything is set in stone and everything's going to happen. There's a certain destiny because I think we can ebb and flow with reality and steer it any way we want. And yeah, I think that there is a veil, and that veil is just between us, the physical, and us, the energy, and it's hard to articulate that. I don't know, when you make the two one again, then you rise above the whole. You rise above the whole indifferent, because we're born dead, man. And what do we fear the worst? Death. And why is that? Because fear is the biggest obstacle we have to overcome to overcome it all. I mean, everlasting life. Do you want to live in everlasting death? No, we don't. We don't want to live in fear. So if you can just come to peace with what it is, what creation is, it's a place to become a hero, to rise to the occasion, to love no matter what, to help. Are you going to be that person driving down the road and to go to Costco to get the last bag of toilet paper, and you see a family on the side of the road starving, almost dead? Are you going to be the one to go get that last roll of toilet paper? Or are you going to stop and give them people the money you're going to spend for that toilet paper? That's where we have to come to terms with and realize that, everybody is everybody, and we need to just do it for everybody and not just think about ourselves. And the old hoarding thing, that's a little distasteful in my opinion, but
yeah, I agree. Now, in closing tonight, is there any messages you want to give the folks? Any final words you'd like to say before we close out?
Live inward, love outward. That's it.
Very well said. Sleuth, thank you so much. That was fantastic. And we'll have you back on sometime in the future.
Yeah, I appreciate it, man. And yeah, just pay it forward, people. Love it forward, and nothing can touch us. Very
good. Have an excellent night.
Yeah, you too, brother. Thank you.